Do you start with boss or do you start with that?
We can do last one you start.
Hi, so welcome to the third part in preparing for the Tomb of Sargeras to step up whatever level of raiding you're currently doing to the next level. And this one is on alerts and notifications. In other words, the things you sort of want to know that's going on with the fight. This is most especially important for people who want to start mythic raiding or to get serious about it. Maybe you've been pissing about with the first few bosses and you want, do you know what, you want to do some proper mythic bosses. What you'll hear a lot of people saying all the time, just ignore them, is add-ons, you're not very good if you need add-ons. I don't need add-ons. Really? Okay. You look at any video of a world first all the way down to world 1000 or whatever, and what will you see on that kill video? You will see boss mods. And I'll give you an explanation of why, a really simple one. So let's say you're on Gul'dan and the eyes of Gul'dan are about to spawn. Now the eyes of Gul'dan, doesn't matter what difficulty you're doing it on, these things need to die quickly. Why do they need to die quickly? Apart from the fact that if you don't kill them really quickly, they'll duplicate, so you have another set to deal with. They're doing damage. These are the things that kill people even on LFR. They want to die immediately. So how can you make sure that you kill anything within a few seconds? You make sure you've got your resources up to full, whatever it happens to be. Holy power, fury, energy, whatever it is. Make sure you're ready to go. You've got things firing. You're going to blow them up. If you don't know the eyes are coming, how are you going to do that? You're not. It's that simple. It's just pot luck whether you are ready for them or not. And this is what you need to do for several things. Sometimes, sure, you get some people who don't use these notifications properly. Do you know what? They're the people in the raid leader's always shouting at because they keep cocking things up. You will not see that, guarantee, on any stream or kill video of anyone in a top guild without those notifications. So you need them as well. Now, there are two main programs that will allow you to have these notifications. The first one is DBM and the second one is Bigwigs. I favour Bigwigs, so I'm going to show you how you can set up some simple to use notifications on Bigwigs. Don't use the default settings because that's not for everyone. You want to personalise it to yourself, just like the UI in the last part. So let's have a look at timers first of all. So with Bigwigs, I'm just going to right click there. And what we want to do is toggle anchors. Close that down. Now we've got various things here. We've got messages, emphasized messages. You get some control over which ones are emphasized, of course. And then bars and emphasized bars. Now these are the key ones, the bars. These are the ones that give you the timers on events in fights which are timed, which is a lot of them. Now what I tend to do is the bars, the standard bars, tells you when they're some way off yet. You don't have to do anything immediately. These ones, it's when they're very imminent. There's seconds left for them. So I tend to, this is just my personal preference, place the bars over my frames there and the emphasized bars over the target ones. The idea is it doesn't really matter that they're over these bars. The idea is that they're in my eye line, but at the same time they're not in the way. That'd be no good at all. Now, emphasized messages are okay because these only come up now and then because I only emphasize so many messages, and usually when I do that it's because it's quite important. I absolutely want it to come up there. Same with a countdown. If I give a countdown to any events, and again I decide that by default none of them have a countdown set, then again I want that right in my face as well. And then just the standard messages can go along there. They may be important. If they're not, it doesn't really matter. There's nothing particularly important happening there. When you've set them up how you like, and there's various other things as well which on some fights are useful. The range radar, which you can set yourself, put that somewhere where it doesn't need to be right in the way, you just want to be able to glance at it and see. This arrangement is for when you need to be a certain distance away from other players. It could be, say, during Horn of Valor on the Odin encounter. For me personally, I'm using this at the moment on Mythic Gul'dan for when I'm soaking in the well, so that I'm away from other people, so that we don't give each other stacks accidentally. So what can we do in terms of really important events? Now, let's say, as an example, we'll go to a raid boss. If you're in a raid, by the way, when you're near a boss, it will by default automatically come up with that boss, assuming you want to make some changes to it. But when we're not in a raid or not near a boss, then I have to select it all myself. So I'm going to select Nighthold. Now let's select Spellblade Alorial as an example. So in this one, let's say you're a ranged DPS and you're going to be dealing with the Mark of Frost. So you want to know about certain important events. You're going to want to know about Detonate, and you want to know about Animate. So when Detonate comes in, you want to be able to shift yourself forward a little bit. So let's say you decide to emphasize that. So in Big Wigs, we just click on that. I'm just going to tick on the box, emphasize. And that's all I need to do. I'm happy with that. So then I'll click back. Now, when Animate comes in, that's when the ads are going to spawn, and we need to make sure that we're in position there, get them all near the boss so that we can AoE them down and we don't get pushed back and turned into icicles. So let's say for the Animate, I want a bit more of a warning. So I'm going to click on that one, countdown. I might also put emphasize as well, but with the countdown, I don't really need to know about that. And what that will do then, there will be an audio countdown from 5 to 1 before the timed event. Now, it's very important with countdowns that you don't use them too liberally. The problem with this is if you do, you'll start to tune it out, because what happens is a particular event, you think, oh, that's actually really important, I have to deal with that, I know, I'll give myself a countdown. But then it turns out actually you didn't need the countdown at all. So what are you going to do with this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? You start to mentally tune it out, which means that then when there's an event for which you do need that countdown, because you do keep forgetting about it, you tuned it out because it's the same indicator. What I generally do with the countdown is by default I don't use it. If I know there's something really key for me, I might click emphasize. The countdown, what happens here is, let's say I cock something up because I missed it. I wasn't paying attention to the timers at the time because I was distracted and I missed an event. What I'll do in that situation is go, okay, I don't want to miss that event again. I'll click on countdown for that. So I tend to be led by that. And then if I get later in, either we're still progressing because it's a really tough boss, or it's on farm and I'm finding myself that I'm dealing with it, I don't need the countdown anymore, I will actually go back and proactively tick it off. So again, I avoid the situation where I'm tuning it out. When I hear that countdown, it needs to be to remind me to do something ultra important, without which we're going to have a bad time. So let's have another look at another boss. So let's take a look at Tichondrius. So these are ones that might actually apply to many more of us. So let's go through a few of the things that we might want to look at. Now, Carrion Plague is quite important to be aware of, especially on Mythic mode, because you are going to have to move for Seeker Swarm. On normally in Heroic, you move to a specific side of the room when you get Carrion Plague. So you sort of might want to emphasize that, but not emphasize it whenever it goes out. You don't care if it's not on you. So you could click for this one only when on me. This means that it enables an option message only if it affects you. So if it doesn't affect you, if it's happening to other people, because it happens throughout the fight, you don't care about it. If you're not the raid leader, you're not interested. So it will only happen when it's on you. So you can tick that for that. So let's have a look at another few ones. So again, Seeker Swarm. Now this is a classic case of, well, if you do have that one on you, you sort of want to know when it's coming in. So maybe you put a countdown and an emphasis on that one as well. But again, only when on you. And then you might look down at some of these ones. So let's say you're a melee DPS, as indeed I am. And Feast of Blood. Now, the bloods that spawn there are not really of any great interest to me. So do I care about those? No. Because here's another thing. In amongst all the different timers, again, it comes back to tuning out. If you have lots of timers for lots of different things, but only a small number of them apply to you, you're not the raid leader, and that means inevitably some of them will not apply to you. As a DPS at any rate, healers tend to want to be aware of a lot of things. So Feast of Blood you might decide doesn't apply to you. Tick it off. Ads. The ad spawns, very important for hunters, because they'll need to misdirect them to the tanks. Quite important for the tanks, because they know something's going to be misdirected to them. They need to grab hold of it. Does it matter about you as a melee DPS, or even a ranged DPS that's not a hunter? Not especially, no. Oh dear, there they go. Of course, the ranged DPS do need to be attacking them. Now, you don't have to, as I say, get rid of all of these. You can keep them all on by default. You can see I sort of do, but then I am sort of keeping an eye on the raid in general anyway. But if you find yourself with too many things and you're finding it a bit much looking at all the timers, it is a good idea to go through in advance and prune out any abilities that it's not your job to deal with. Another thing you'll find with some of the options in here these days is when you click on an ability, so let's say you want to click on Icy Ejection, there is a voice add-on that you can get for bigwigs, which will actually say the name of the ability as it's coming up. You might want to disable this for all of them. You might want to disable it just for specific ones so that it's just there again as an extra emphasis. See, the emphasis that you're ticking down here is a message that you are getting about what's coming up or what's really important. You've decided that needs emphasis. But some people respond better to an audio cue than a visual one in this particular case. But again, if the voice is there for everything, which it is by default, you're going to tune it out. So again, it's worth going through, pruning out the ones that you're not as bothered about, just keeping the ones that you actually do need to know about quite a lot. Now, the final thing to notice, this is largely a personal one for me, is there's a couple of other options in bigwigs. First of all, there's an option here you might think is quite strange. It says, pretend I'm using DBM. The reason for this is because sometimes, I don't think it's so much of a thing now, but it certainly used to be the case. You'd get into pugs sometimes and people will say, you've got to have DBM. What they actually mean is we want you to have boss timers. But a lot of people don't really understand that there's different types of boss timers and they just thought you needed DBM and they would insist on it and they'll be able to check whether or not you've got DBM. Well, if you've got bigwigs, of course you won't have DBM. So they will say, you haven't got the add-ons. I don't want you mucking about not knowing what to do. I want you to have DBM. So you could click on this and it will tell that person's add-on that's checking for it, oh, by the way, I'm DBM. Another thing you can do, that I used DBM for quite some time and I eventually was persuaded to use bigwigs because of better features and being updated more quickly. And at the time, I was in a guild that was ahead of the guild that produces DBM, but not the one that produces bigwigs. So, you know, it made sense to go bigwigs. The one thing that put me off was the bigwigs victory sound message. Now, you can see on here I've got none selected because, oh my God, I cannot be doing with it. Because this is what it's... Is this the one? I think this is the one. Hateful, isn't it? And that's what I would hear when I first installed when I first installed bigwigs, like later on. It did sort of exist in vanilla for a couple of things. I heard that sound every time a boss died, and I said, I ain't using this. I don't care how good it is. I ain't using it. But of course you can remove it. It's not essential to be there. You can just click it onto none. Or another sound. If you want a little sound, a little fanfare when the fight ends, you might even want that one. It will drive you mad, but maybe you'll want that one. This is what it used to sound like, I think. Oh my God. I think that's the original Warcraft one, isn't it? Jesus. Anyway, we're getting rid of all of it. I'm having none. So that's what you can go with, or you can, as I say, choose one of your own there. So if what's off-putting is that silly sound at the end of a fight, you don't have to have it. So I hope you found that useful. And if you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share, as always, for further content. And until next time, I'll see you later.